What if your silence was the loudest thing she ever heard? Not your words, not your anger, not your pain, just absence. Pure, intentional, unshakable silence. Most people think silence means weakness, that if you're quiet, you're hurting. If you're not posting, you're broken. If you're not reacting, you're losing. Nope. The truth is, silence is strategy. Silence is control. Silence is the sound of a man who knows he doesn't owe anyone a damn explanation, especially not the one who walked away. When she left, when she moved on, when she needed space, she thought you'd fold. She expected the apology text, the emotional breakdown, the endless efforts to work it out, because that's how it usually goes. That's what she's used to. But this time, the script flipped. No begging, no chasing, just nothing. You vanished, not because you're hiding, but because you're focused. You're building in the dark, growing in silence, and becoming the man who no longer needs to be seen to be powerful. That kind of silence, it messes with people. It forces them to sit with the weight of their decisions. It makes them wonder, did I lose something I'll never find again? And that question eats away at them, because now you're a ghost she can't stop feeling, a mystery she can't read. You're no longer available, you're ascending, and she's just watching from the outside. Stoicism tells us the man who controls his emotions controls his world. You don't lash out, you don't plead, you observe, you elevate. And dark psychology backs it up. When someone can't access your energy, they start craving it. That's what you're doing now. You're starving the chaos, feeding your discipline, and letting the silence do the work. So if you're done over-explaining yourself, if you're done performing for someone who stopped appreciating you, if you're ready to rise without noise and build without permission, hit that like button, subscribe to Stoic Blessing, turn on notifications so you never miss this mindset, and comment below, silence is my strategy, not my surrender. Now, let's begin. Number 1. Silence is a statement, not a weakness. Most people fear silence. They confuse it with weakness, with passivity, with retreat. But real ones know silence is a statement. It says, I don't need to explain myself to you. It says, I've already made peace with your absence. It says everything, without saying a word. When she walked out, she probably thought your silence meant pain, that you were sulking, lost, waiting. But what she didn't understand is that your silence wasn't sorrow, it was strategy. You chose not to chase, not to react, not to play into the emotional tug-of-war. That's not weakness, that's discipline. You pulled back, not because you were broken, but because you were building. And that unsettles her more than any confrontation ever could, because now she has to wonder, and wondering is more painful than knowing. She doesn't know what you're thinking. She doesn't know what you're planning. She doesn't know if you still care, and that uncertainty eats at her. Stoicism teaches restraint for a reason. The more you say, the more power you give away. The less you say, the more you own. You're not reactive, you're responsive. You don't speak to be heard. You speak when it matters, or you don't speak at all. You don't broadcast your progress, your pain, or your plans. You just move in silence, letting results be the only announcement anyone gets. And here's the deeper cut. In a world addicted to attention, your silence becomes sacred, rare, powerful. It makes people uncomfortable because they can't manipulate what they can't access. She wanted control. What she got was confusion. And now, the man who used to over-explain, over-give, and over-care has gone still, cold, focused, and that silence, that's the loudest move you've ever made. Number 2, the most dangerous men move quietest. The loudest guy in the room is usually the weakest. He needs to be seen, to be validated, to be noticed. But the real threat, The man who says nothing. The one sitting in silence, watching everything, needing no recognition. That's the man you're becoming. The one who moves without noise, without drama, without a single wasted word. Because when you stop needing to be understood and start mastering your energy, everything changes. She expected you to put on a show, to act out, to flex, to prove your worth now that she's gone. But you didn't post the gym selfies. You didn't update your status. You didn't try to prove anything. You just disappeared into your grind, into your routine, into your evolution. And that scares her more than anything. Because now you're unreadable, untrackable. She can't figure out if you're suffering or thriving. That mystery, that's power. Dark psychology shows us that what people can't predict, they can't control. When she can't find your emotions, can't feel your attention, can't place your energy, her mind starts reaching, wondering, doubting, and that mental loop doesn't stop. All because you chose to move like a shadow, focused, dangerous, unavailable. Stoicism sharpens that edge. You don't rise for the sake of appearances. You rise because it's the only option. Because comfort never made anyone powerful. You don't announce your comeback. You don't explain your transformation. You become it, quietly, relentlessly. Because the moment you stop talking and start executing in silence, that's when they realize they never really knew who they were dealing with. And by then, it's too late. You've moved beyond the noise, beyond the reach. The most dangerous men don't bark. They don't threaten. They don't flex. They vanish, and then they dominate. Number 3, rebuild without broadcasting. The world's addicted to being seen. Every move is posted. Every thought is shared. Every small victory is turned into a performance. But real power doesn't announce itself. It moves quietly. It builds silently. And it only speaks when the results are undeniable. You're not rebuilding to show off. You're rebuilding because you owe it to yourself. And you're doing it in silence, because that's where real transformation happens. She thought she'd keep tabs on you. Thought she'd still know what you were up to. Maybe she expected thirst traps, rebound girls, status updates to prove you're doing fine. But what she didn't expect was the blackout. No posts, no likes, no breadcrumbs, just absence. Because when she looked you up and found nothing, that emptiness screamed louder than any curated image ever could. Stoicism teaches us that growth is internal. You don't build yourself back up for validation. You do it because strength, clarity, and peace are your foundation now. You don't need applause. You don't need eyes on you. You just need structure, routine, and relentless focus. While she's watching your stories, hoping to read between the lines, you're too busy writing a new story, one she's not part of. And here's where dark psychology takes over. The less access she has to your progress, the more intrigued she becomes. Because we chase what's hidden, we obsess over what we can't see. And when she realizes she no longer knows you, what you're doing, who you're becoming, where your head's at, she starts feeling that void. That quiet space you've created isn't just about boundaries, it's about psychological elevation. You're not on display anymore, you're in development, you're in the lab. And when the results are ready, they won't be for show. They'll be so real, so sharp, so evolved, she won't recognize the man she once had access to. And by then, it won't matter if she sees it, because you won't care. Number 4, starve her of your attention. Attention is currency, and for too long you gave yours away like it had no value. The texts, the double taps, the check-ins. Even after she walked, part of you still fed her with your energy, maybe not directly, but through your posts, your reactions, your digital breadcrumbs. But now, that version of you is gone, because once you realize that your attention is power, you learn the most strategic move is to starve her of it completely. She may not have said it, but she felt it. Your attention was her comfort. It let her know you still cared, that she still had real estate in your mind. But now she's been cut off. No more likes, no more replies, no more little signs that she still has an emotional leash on you. You've reclaimed your energy and redirected it towards something that actually matters, yourself. Stoicism teaches us not to be dragged by desire or emotion. It teaches control, and that control starts with where you place your focus. Your attention should never flow toward what doesn't serve your peace. Every second you spend watching her life is one you've stolen from your own. That's a cost you don't pay anymore. You've closed the loop. You've removed yourself from the mental battlefield she didn't even know she was still fighting. Dark psychology understands the shift. When someone's used to being fed attention, the absence of it is like withdrawal. She starts wondering, questioning. Why has he gone so quiet? Did he stop caring? Did I lose him completely? That uncertainty, that's your advantage. And it doesn't come from playing games. It comes from discipline. You're no longer reactive. You're no longer available. You're focused. You've reclaimed the one thing she thought she still controlled, your attention. And now that it's gone, she's left with silence. And in that silence, she feels the loss more than she ever expected to. Number 5. Let the silence reveal who she really is. Silence doesn't just reveal your strength, it reveals her truth. When you stop engaging, stop reacting, stop giving her the emotional fuel she used to rely on, you create space. And in that space, her real character shows. Because without your attention to shape her image, she's left to be exactly who she is. No spotlight, no audience, no emotional strings to pull, just her, alone with her own reflection. You see, when you're caught up in the emotional noise of a breakup, texting, arguing, trying to fix things, you miss the signs. You overlook the patterns, but silence strips all of that away. Now that you've pulled back, you get to watch her without the mask. How does she move when she no longer has control over your emotions? How does she act when there's no attention to feed on? That's the version of her you were never supposed to see. Stoicism is all about observation without judgment. You don't need to confront her. You don't need answers. You just need to watch. Because the truth always shows itself when the spotlight fades. The longer you stay silent, the clearer it all becomes. You start to realize what you were dealing with wasn't love, it was control. It was dependency. It was ego. And now that you're not giving her anything to work with, all those cracks begin to show. Dark psychology digs deeper here. When people can no longer shape how they're perceived, they panic. They act out. They slip. Because they're not used to being unseen. They're not used to silence. They're used to manipulating emotion to protect their image. But your silence doesn't give her that option. You've turned off the stage lights, and now she has to stand alone. No audience, no feedback, no power. And while she unravels in that emptiness, you're watching calmly, not with bitterness, but with understanding. Because now you see her clearly, and that clarity is priceless. You didn't just gain distance, you gained truth. And the truth, that's what finally sets you free. Number 6. Move like a shadow. Unpredictable and unreachable. Predictability is control. If she knows what you'll do, how you'll feel, when you'll react, she owns you, not with force, but with anticipation. She doesn't need to manipulate you directly when she can predict your behavior. That's why most men lose their power after a breakup. They keep moving in patterns she can see coming. But when you become unpredictable, when you move like a shadow, you shatter that control completely. You stop being available, you stop being visible, you stop showing up in all the places she expects you to be. She checks your page, nothing. She watches your circle, quiet. She listens for whispers about you, silence. You're not hiding, You're moving with precision, like a man on a mission, not a man in mourning. You've gone dark, not because you're broken, but because you're focused. Stoicism teaches presence without performance. You don't have to be seen to be strong. You don't owe the world updates. When you move like a shadow, you conserve energy. You protect your direction. You become unreachable, and that sends a message louder than any words ever could. I'm not waiting. I'm not watching. I'm building something you'll never touch. And here's what dark psychology reveals. Uncertainty breeds anxiety. When she can't track you, she can't control you. When she doesn't know what you're feeling, who you're seeing, or where your head's at, she starts spinning stories in her mind. Doubt creeps in. Regret sneaks through the cracks. Because now, the man who used to orbit around her emotions is gone. You've become a ghost in her world, but a force in your own. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to be seen. You need to be intentional, strategic, elusive. You're not running from the past. You're rising beyond it. And the man who moves like a shadow, he's the one no one sees coming until it's already too late. Number 7, make her regret what she can't feel anymore. She expected you to stay emotionally available, to still feel something, to still react, to still show her that she mattered. That's what most men do. Even after the breakup, they leave the door open emotionally, but not you. You slammed that door, locked it, and threw away the key. And in doing that, you didn't just take away your attention, you took away the feeling she was addicted to, the emotional presence, the energy, the validation. Gone. Now she's reaching into an empty space where your emotions used to be. And what does she find? Nothing. No warmth, no softness, no trace of the man who used to light up when she walked in the room. And that absence, it hurts more than anything you could have said, because people don't miss words, they miss feelings. They miss the energy you used to give them, the feeling of being wanted, desired, chosen. But now she feels none of it. Stoicism is emotional discipline. You don't shut down. You master what you give away. You don't deny your emotions. You just control the flow. And in that control is power. Because once she realizes she no longer has access to your emotions, that she's no longer able to pull you in with a look or a memory, regret starts to creep in. Regret not just for losing you, but for losing her influence over you. Dark psychology flips the script here. When someone loses emotional access to you, they start doubting their value. They start asking themselves, how did I lose that connection? Why doesn't he feel anything anymore? That emotional void turns into self-doubt. And it didn't come from bitterness. It came from you rising emotionally above her reach. You're not angry. You're not cold. You're clear. You've moved on, not just physically, but emotionally. And now she doesn't get to feel that warmth anymore. She gets silence, stillness, absence, the kind that lingers. The kind that makes her wonder if she ever really knew you at all. Number 8, your absence will echo louder than your presence ever did. When you were there, texting, calling, showing up, she got used to it. Your presence was constant, reliable, maybe even taken for granted. But now, you're gone. Not just out of her space, but out of her world. And what she didn't realize is that your absence would echo louder than anything you ever said or did. Because now, in the places you used to be, there's nothing, and that nothing is loud. Absence has a weight to it, a psychological sting. When someone stops showing up, the silence they leave behind speaks volumes. She walks past places that remind her of you. She hears songs you used to play. She feels moments where your name should be, and it's not there. And the worst part for her, you're not just missing, you're unreachable, not in bitterness, in peace. The kind that doesn't announce itself, but changes everything around it. Stoicism isn't about making noise. It's about being so composed, so self-contained, that even your withdrawal holds power. Your presence used to fill a space. Your absence now defines it. And what she once overlooked, she now feels every day. That routine message that never comes. That emotional safety net she cut, thinking she'd never fall. She fell, and now there's no one there to catch her. Dark psychology understands this pain. Human beings don't fear being alone. They fear being forgotten. They fear becoming invisible to someone they used to matter to. And that's what she's feeling now. Not anger, not confusion, irrelevance. And it's eating at her, because the man who used to orbit around her is now centered in his own life, and she's on the outside looking in. You didn't yell, you didn't fight. You just removed yourself, fully, cleanly, permanently. And in doing so, you left behind something stronger than a memory. You left an echo, one she hears every time she realizes she can't reach you anymore, and never will again. Number 9. Build a life that speaks for you. You don't need to post a thing. You don't need to say a word. When you build with intention, when your life is rooted in discipline, clarity, and forward motion, your results start speaking louder than anything you could type, text, or explain. That's where you're headed now. Not into the spotlight, but into alignment. And the life you build in silence, it becomes undeniable. She used to know everything, your dreams, your insecurities, your fears. But now, you've gone dark. Not to play games, but because the energy that once went toward chasing is now invested in creation. You're crafting a daily routine that runs on focus. You're training your body, sharpening your mind, solidifying your mission. And none of it is for show. That's what makes it real. That's what makes it dangerous. Stoicism teaches that character is built when no one is watching. You don't need praise. You don't need likes. You need structure. And that structure becomes the foundation of a life that doesn't waver, no matter who leaves or who stays. While she's still stuck in the validation loop, seeking attention, seeking drama, you're building something permanent, something silent, strong, and sacred. Dark psychology flips here. When people can't access your world, they become obsessed with what's behind the curtain. She may not reach out directly, but trust, she's watching, quietly, because the unknown creates tension. And when she sees you rising, traveling, succeeding, laughing, not with bitterness, but with peace, she starts questioning everything. Did I underestimate him? Did I give up too soon? Did I lose something rare? But here's the truth. It's no longer about what she thinks. You've built a life that speaks for you. One where your peace is unshakable, your path is clear, and your energy is no longer up for negotiation. No need to flex. No need to explain. Just live. Let your life do the talking, and let her sit in the silence. Number 10. Let her watch, but never let her back in. She will circle back. Maybe not today, maybe not next week, but it's coming. A "how have you been" text, a random emoji, a song she sends with no explanation. That's the moment she tries to re-enter your life, not because she deserves to, but because your silence worked. Your growth became visible, your energy became sacred. And now she wants a second chance at something she didn't respect the first time. But here's the rule. You never let her back in. She didn't just walk away. She underestimated you. She bet that you'd stay the same, that your self-worth depended on her presence. But you evolved. You disconnected. You mastered your emotions, elevated your habits, and started becoming the man she never saw coming. And now that she feels your absence, now that she sees you've built something without her, suddenly she's curious again. But curiosity isn't a ticket back into your life. Stoicism teaches us that peace is more valuable than nostalgia. That detachment is not cruelty, it's clarity. You're not angry, you're not bitter, you're just done. You've outgrown who you were when she had access to you. The version of you that tolerated the emotional games, the confusion, the disrespect. He's gone. And the man standing in his place? He doesn't need to burn bridges. He just doesn't walk back across them. Dark psychology backs it. When someone realizes they've lost influence over you, they'll test the door. They'll try to reconnect, not to rebuild, but to see if they still matter. That's not love. That's ego. And if you let them back in, you undo the very growth that made them regret leaving in the first place. Let her watch. Let her wonder. But keep walking. You're not trying to be mysterious. You're just on a path she no longer belongs to. And the man you've become, he knows that true power isn't getting her back. It's never wanting her back again. You didn't go silent because you were broken. You went silent because you were done. Done explaining, done proving, done giving your energy to someone who couldn't handle your worth. What she thought was retreat was actually rebirth. And now, she's watching a man rise in total silence, with total control, and there's nothing she can do about it. You've mastered the hardest skill there is, emotional discipline. You don't chase, you don't react. You move with purpose, and you build without noise. That's what makes you rare. That's what makes you powerful. While she's still addicted to attention, you've found something deeper, peace. That's your weapon now. That's your edge. And when she finally realizes what she lost, all she'll be able to do is watch. If you're done performing, if you're done letting the past dictate your worth, if you're ready to rise in silence and lead with discipline, hit that like button, subscribe to Stoic Blessing, turn on notifications so you never miss a drop, and comment below, "Silence is my strategy, not my surrender." Stay cold, stay sharp, stay dangerous. This is Stoic Blessing. Your power is in your stillness.